Good morning, everyone. This is the release of the discussion documents regarding a review of the Child Support Scheme. I'll talk in detail in just a moment about the proposals that we're advancing and the time frame for their consideration, but I just want to make a few general comments at the outset. We've had a child support scheme in place in New Zealand since 1991. While it's worked reasonably well over that period of time and that we've collected some 89% of child support that's been due, there are some issues that arise from the fact that social conditions have changed quite significantly, and also it's time to review whether the formulas we apply are either too rigid or inflexible or are appropriate to today's circumstances. Having said all of that, though, I think the starting point has got to be that the child support system is a backstop in situations where parents are unable to make good arrangements regarding support for their children. It's not the default position, it's the backstop. So the incentive has got to be very strongly on parents to enter into their own arrangements, which they can honour, and all of the evidence suggests that those arrangements can be very fulfilling and rewarding and beneficial to the children. Inevitably, though, there are going to be situations where that's not possible for a whole variety of reasons, hence the need for a child support system. We currently have around 140,000 families in the system. It's around 210,000 children who rely on the child support system delivering a reasonable level of income to the what we have hitherto called a custodial parent, but there's an issue about that terminology as well, for their benefit. What this review focuses on are 6 broad areas where we think there is scope for change. Let me run through those in just brief detail. The first, and these are in no particular order, the first is the question of shared care, where parents share the care of their children to a much greater extent than was the case in 1991. The formula at the moment is calculated on the number of bed nights that a child spends with particular parents. The question that we're posing and we want to look at is whether that is in fact too inflexible, whether there are many other factors that should be taken into account, such as preschool, after-school care, and various other types of care and attention that people currently provide that are not recognised in the formula. In 1991, when the Child Support Act was put in place, around 30% of custodial parents, parents caring for the children, mainly mums, were in the workforce either in full or part-time employment. Today that figure is over 50%. It's increased to therefore around 66% over the last 20 years. The system at the moment operates on the basis of a calculation on the income of the non-caring parent or the non-custodial parent. The question that we're posing is whether that is still appropriate in today's circumstances or whether greater account needs to be taken of the income of both parents in arriving at the formula for payment. That leads to the third issue, which is the formula itself. The formula is at the moment quite a fixed process in terms of a percentage of the non-custodial parent's income once you take out a living allowance, etc. It actually bears little relationship to the cost of raising a child. We're looking at a formula that more accurately reflects the cost of raising a child at various stages of that child's life. And is that a more appropriate way to go than the current arrangement? The next areas really relate to the other side of the coin, which I suppose you could loosely describe under the heading enforcement. We've made dramatic changes in recent years to give us a better record of both who are the defaulting parents. We can track them across the border more effectively. We have put in place incentives to enable them to enter into arrangements to repay either their principal or their debt, or both. But the question that needs to be raised, and we're proposing in the report, is that we look to compulsory deduction orders, automatic attachments, etc., to incomes to collect that child support. We're also cognizant of the fact that around $2 billion outstanding at the moment, approximately, and this is an approximate figure, 1.4 of that $2 billion is penalties and interest, which raises the question about the efficacy for some of that long-term debt of continuing to impose penalty and other mechanisms when in fact it's not being recovered anyway. So we are looking at more flexibility regarding write-offs and penalties, particularly for those who have longer-term debt, if that is a way of encouraging earlier repayment. And the final area that the report addresses is the question of whether the system at the moment should continue to enable, in certain circumstances, and they are limited, parent or people who are not the actual parents of the child to claim child support on their behalf. There have been one or two high-profile media cases of late which have drawn this to attention, and the circumstances, whilst they are not common, are not unknown. The question that we want to get public feedback on is whether that is acceptable or whether in fact there should be much tighter definitions as to who can actually claim child support on behalf of particular children. Overall, the time frame from here is the release of the discussion document today. You have in your packs the summary version. There is a much longer and more detailed version available. Is out for public consultation until the 29th of October. We're doing this both in the traditional form of consultation on the written document. There's also a special website supporting children.ird.govt.nz, and we'll be conducting an online consultation process as well. Following the completion of the consultation process, obviously decisions will be made on the basis of the recommendations and the comments that come forward, and then we'll look to legislation probably sometime during the course of next year. That's dependent obviously on the outcome of the consultation process.